Welcome to Everyday Economics, a podcast that helps you learn about the economic world happening around you every day. I'm your host, Chris Krug, president of the 501c3 nonprofit Franklin News Foundation. Check out all of our great podcasts at americastalking.com. To support podcasts such as this one, please make your tax-deductible charitable contribution by clicking the link in the show description. We're recording this episode on Tuesday, November 22nd, and joining me is my partner, Dr. Orphe Divounguy. He's a PhD economist and one of my favorite people on the planet. Dr. O, I want to talk to you, sir, about home buying. Looks like the pathway may be getting easier for at least some people. Changes with regard to how scores are calculated and the new scoring systems that are being implemented with the FICO 10T and the Vantage Score 4.0, which I think to most Americans and virtually anybody to be listening to this sounds like gobbledygook. But what does it mean? What does it mean? I don't follow the FICO 10T fan page on Facebook,
on TikTok.
Yeah, we're on TikTok. So could you color this up for us? We're trying to figure out exactly what's happening here.
Look, the bottom line is, I think those are good reforms. And why do I say that? I say, the more information we can include in credit scoring, the more accurate the credit score is going to be. And that's good for both lenders and borrowers. And so that's what's happening. It's the Federal Housing Finance Agency requiring lenders to incorporate these credit scores, the Vantage score, that will include a borrower's rent, utility, and phone payments into credit scoring. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And the reason I say that, despite I've heard a lot of people worry about this and start to suggest, well, could we get a repeat of the housing crisis that we had before in 12 years ago? Is it 14 years ago now?
14 years ago, 2008.
Right? And I say, no, this is a good thing. This is good news for both borrowers and lenders, because the more information you include in the credit score, the more accurate the credit score is going to be. And so I like it. I like these reforms. Now, I think the biggest beneficiaries are going to be those people who, in the most expensive cities in America, cities where you have massive housing shortages, housing unit deficits, are already paying more than the typical monthly mortgage payment on rent, right? They're paying rents that exceed most homeowners' monthly payments. They pay their rent on time. And unfortunately, those rent payments were not being included in the lending criteria, right? To try to get in their credit score, to try to get a mortgage. And so I think it's going to be helpful to get some of these families that have a regular income, that work hard, that have saved up, that are renting, right, to finally get on the bottom ladder of homeownership.
The one thing about this that scares me a little bit is not necessarily the recalculation of the scores. It's this like sort of the impending wave of new mortgage products that look an awful lot like the old mortgage products that preceded the housing crash in 2008. So adjustable rate mortgages and things of that nature. And some of these are like 3, 5, 7, 1 ARM adjustable rate mortgage products. That was one of the biggest drivers of the housing crash, because when interest rates changed, there were so many people who were upside down. Is it reasonable to think that in this next wave of opportunity that people are more financially put together, just in a better financial condition than home buyers were, who maybe bought too much house with products that really put them into jeopardy the minute they signed the paper? Are we in a better spot than we were prior to 2008?
Absolutely. We're in a much better spot, regardless of the changes, by the way, to credit scoring. We're in a much better spot. Homeowners that bought this time around have higher credit scores. The share of adjustable rate mortgages is so low today when compared to back in 2004, 2005.
And there have been positive consequences associated with that because unlike 2008, when the economy went down during COVID, that there was more wealth in people's homes that were available to them if they had to tap it than there were 14 years ago.
Absolutely. Homeowners are sitting on record tappable equity today.
So this new scoring system, which I think is actually pretty smart, but this new product array that is like kind of making a comeback. These adjustable rate mortgages are making a comeback. I'm not dubious. I'm a little bit skeptical. That's all.
Of course. But even the adjustable rate mortgages, they're not making that much of a comeback, right? Also, remember part of the crisis 14 years ago was due to, in some places, fraudulent lending practices.
Of course.
Right? Of course. There's a ton of fraud
going on then. Right. There were people that all of a sudden had become mortgage specialists. I don't know what they were doing before.
The fact that mortgage rates are very high and that prices in most markets are also very high hasn't changed. And that's pushed out a lot of potential home buyers, right? And so that's not changing. This new credit scoring just helps those people who were already there on the fence. There's about, according to my research, roughly 10 million households, more than 10 million households. Let me get the number. So something like 34 million households in the US that have enough income to pay the typical mortgage payment in their metropolitan area, in their local housing market, right? So they could go up to the typical house on the market, the median priced home on the market. They have enough income to make a monthly mortgage payment on that house, and yet they're not homeowners, right? And they're not homeowners because of the many barriers to entry. Some people don't have a credit history, but they've been paying, right? They don't have a traditional credit history, but they've been earning money, paying their rent on time, paying their utility bills on time. Those people should have access to a credit history. And so that, I think those changes are extremely important. Most of the research on this topic, right, the people that are being left behind are minorities, specifically Black households. Today, less than half of Black families own a home, compared to something like 72 or 73% for white households. And so when we talk about income and wealth inequality, when wealth is basically accumulated through home ownership and passed down, this is a step in the right direction to help close that gap.
Yeah, to put some numbers to it, and this is from a story that published at money.com. FICO itself estimates 53 million people do not have enough credit history to be scored by the model currently used by mortgage lenders. Moreover, Black households are disproportionately likely to have no FICO score or to have a score below 620. However, VantageScore estimates that it can provide credit scores for 37 million people that FICO does not currently capture. Of those, the company estimates 10.7 million will have a score of 620 or above, including approximately 4 million quote-unquote minority borrowers.
There you have it.
It's very interesting. Perhaps this improvement or this process improvement with regard to scoring credit will open up some avenues for people who previously hadn't had those avenues. We'll have to see whether or not in this market anybody can buy anything. I mean, mortgage rates are 7% right now.
That's right. Exactly. But those are people who could afford to pay the monthly payment on a home, on the typical home in their local market. And so, so I like that. I like being able to see people get up on the home ownership ladder and build wealth through home ownership. I think it's a positive step forward that's going to benefit the U.S. economy as a whole, because we know that household wealth, when people see their household wealth increase or their stock wealth increase, they end up spending more, right? And so, consumer spending is about 70% of GDP. I think it's an important step in the right direction. And of course, we got to keep an eye out for every time there's new opportunities, there's always risks. But this is mostly a positive step.
Well said. For Orphe Divounguy, this has been Chris Krug. Subscribe to Everyday Economics and dozens of other quality podcasts at americastalking.com.